researchers aboard the Sea Explorer off Dana Point, California. We'll test for whale food, plankton, and krill, and plot the path of whale migration. So grab your backpacks, because we're going down to Davy Jones' locker on a field trip.
Pack up your juice pack, put them in your backpack. Yippee-die, yippee-yippee-yip. Don't be slow, we're ready to go. We're leaving on a field trip. There's so much to discover, so much to do and see. Who knows what we'll uncover?
And I'm waiting patiently.
We'll take a hike, we'll ride a bike, we'll dig for dinosaurs. We'll sing a song, so come along. It's time to go explore.
Richard Henry Dana Jr. wrote about visiting the safe harbor in 2 years before the mass. Now it bears his name. Dana Point Harbor has changed a lot in the last 100 years, but it's still a landmark for the migrating gray whales.
Great stories about whales are almost as old as man. Imagine finding a whale washed up on the beach. It would be enough food to feed a whole village for a year. Greek legend talks about Perseus slaying a leviathan for Andromeda. They kept the bones on exhibit until the Romans captured the city, and they carried them off as a float, the victory parade of sprayed programs. And remember Jonah? He was cast off into the sea, swallowed by a giant fish, probably a big whale. Jonah probably didn't taste too well, because after 3 days, the whale spit him out. I wonder if Elvis...
What we know about whales has evolved over time, mostly because of scientific research. Here at the Orange County Marine Institute, they gather data and share it with students.
Ooh, that's a boat we're going on!
Today we're part of the research team going whale watching.
Welcome aboard. We are having positive studies of the gray whales as they head south down to Baja, California. You guys are participating in more than just a whale watch.
Doug Robb is a biologist with the Marine Institute.
Once we get out of the harbor, you guys want to keep an eye out for any sort of animals that we see out there. Okay? It's pretty common that we can spot something like sea lions or seals, and they should be pretty easy to find. They stick their heads up. The tougher ones are going to be to find dolphins or to find whales. We'll often spot dolphins because they're jumping out of the water, and we see the splash when they come back in again. The whales are going to be the toughest ones to spot, okay, because they just come up to the surface every now and again to breathe. So the easiest thing to spot is when they blow out. You actually see like a big plume of air. It looks like a puff of smoke. And that's what we call their blow.
How many different types of whales are there?
You can see here's at least 25 different types here, and there's over 100 altogether. Whales tend to be separated into 2 different groups. These guys over here, and they include all the dolphins down here, like the bottlenose dolphin, all right? These guys all have teeth. On this side, though, you have the other group. And these guys, instead of having teeth, they have something called baleen. It kind of looks like a mustache on the inside of their mouth. And they use that to catch really small animals, like shrimp or krill, all right? And in fact, the one that we see the most often is going to be the gray whale. These guys are like endurance athletes. Right? These animals swim further than any other mammal in the world. They call it migration. They like to live up in Alaska. Okay? The water off Alaska is very cold, and there's lots of food for them up there. During winter, it gets really cold, and the ice forms up there. So they decided to take a trip. They'll swim all the way down the coast. Here's Canada, going past Washington, Oregon, California. This is us right here. And then they'll go down right to Baja. That's where they hang out in the warm water, and the moms will give birth to their calves. This is kind of what they would look like. The moms are going to be about 45 feet long. Okay? And then the babies are pretty big when they're born. This one's probably about 22 foot long right there. And then you know what they do? They turn around and they swim all the way back. It can be over 16,000 miles round trip. So how do you guys spot them? What they like to do is they like to swim along near the top, and they'll come up, they'll take a little breath, and they'll go down for about half a minute, and then a little breath, and they stay right near the top. And they do that 2, 3, maybe 4 times. They take a big breath, and they dive down deep, and they'll stay and they'll swim underwater for about 4 minutes. That's what they would do when they're up in Alaska and they're feeding. You take a couple of deep breaths, and then you dive all the way down to the bottom to grab a big mouthful of mud.
Did you see anything earlier?
You know what? We got really lucky, and this morning we saw two gray whales.
Oh.
Dead in front of it, like, I don't know, 150 yards. The footprints right there.
That's the luck of the draw. You see, it's not like when you go to Disneyland. You guarantee that you can go on the rides and you can see the shows.
If they were still going the same path, couldn't we catch up and follow them?
Unfortunately,
Like, we know their path.
we saw them maybe 4 hours ago, and they can swim. Those guys are swimming at about 5 miles an hour. So 4 hours ago, and they're going 5 miles an hour. How far do you think they'd be away now? Yeah, it'd be 20 miles already.
So how far did you have to come out to see the whales?
The ones we saw earlier were really close to shore. We saw them, they were only maybe 100 yards from shore one time. Look, they're going to catch up with us. Oh, where's it going to go? Woo-hoo! See, those common dolphins, they're kind of small compared to the other guys, right? Yeah, look how big that resource was over there, yeah. Oh, look at that one. They're huge. Hey, look at this. We've got a couple more little guys up in front of us, huh? These look like they might be some young bottlenose dolphin as well. Yeah, they're bottlenose dolphin. You guys have seen 3 different types of dolphin.
Great stories evolve, too. When the whale spit Jonah out, Jonah resolved to be a better person. Can you think of another story about someone who was swallowed by a whale and decided to be a better person? I'll give you a hint. Geppetto? The main character was a wooden-headed boy with a really long nose. Pinocchio! Another great story about a famous whale. More things to come.
Field trip will be right back after these messages. And now back to field trip.
Okay, that other whale in the tail? Did you guess? Well, call me Ishmael. It's a story about a hunt for a great white whale named Moby Dick. Moby Dick tells a story of adventure on the high seas, but also tells why people went out to hunt for whales. Whale hunting seems new now. Back then, it was big business.
Gray whale's a baleen whale. In fact, this is what his baleen looks like. See, it's just like a mustache. Sure. And actually, you know what's really neat about that? This is the same stuff that your fingernails are made of. These guys eat with fingernails. So this baleen is on the inside of their mouth.
Is it in the same place the teeth are?
It kind of hangs down in plates from their top jaw. But you know what? These guys are different from any of the other baleen whales. Instead of chasing after like a big school of krill or something and kind of gulping it up, these guys are actually mudsuckers. They go down to the very bottom of the ocean and they grab a huge mouthful of mud. And they scoop it up and they kind of swish it around with their tongue inside their mouth and they squirt it out through the baleen. What they're looking for are little tiny, they're called amphipods. They're a type of shrimp and they can grow to about this big. They're very tasty. This here, the proper name for it's a Peterson crab because that's the guy who made it. But what it does, you can see it's like a big set of jaws. It's really heavy. You want to pick it up? Go for it. Yeah. This weighs over 100 pounds right here. It's all in these big weights over here. So you can imagine, we set it down, when it gets to the bottom, it goes snapping together. And then we pulled it back up, and we got it up here. That's where we got the mud.
Drop it on my sleeve!
You guys get it off? That's good. Yeah. You guys can see, this is what they like to eat. Here you go.
Dead boy.
Yeah, this is mud from down in the bottom. You get a fingerful of that. Yeah. Can you imagine taking a big mouthful of this and washing it around in your mouth? Yeah, it'd be pretty gross. But hey, every animal's got to have a way to eat. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to rinse the mud through the screen here. And then we're going to go and see if we got any of those animals trapped. The screen's going to be like baleen. Oh, look, you can already they like to do, they find a nice big tube. See this? This comes from a bigger worm. You see how he made a house for himself? Okay? Well, the crabs will live inside the tubes. They say, oh, thank you very much, and they move right on in. And they'll go around and eat little animals and whatever they can find. Now, when the gray whales go down, you can imagine they scoop up a huge mouthful of this stuff. They eat everything. They don't mind, but they especially like to eat these guys. Now, you got to look really close to see the little pink guys here. You see, they look like the little shrimp. Can you imagine eating these guys?
Do the whales know what they're eating when they go down and scoop all the
I think they do, because there's certain places that they really like to go to. Like they have like we might have our favorite restaurant. Some whales have their favorite place to go scoop up mud. And if you go diving down, you go, it looks like it's on the moon, because there's just big holes all over the place where they've been scooping up mud.
Whales provided fuel for life. Without electricity, oil lamps and candles were the only way to light up a hole. Whale oil was the only oil that didn't smell really bad.
Field trip will be right back after these messages.
And now back to field trip.
Life aboard a whaler was hard work. Men went to sea for years to fill the hull with oil. And crews came from around the world, spurred by the love of adventure and money. In 1769, a runaway slave named Prince Boston joined up on a whaler to escape slavery. When his ship came back to the harbor at Nantucket, the courts declared him a free man. His grandson, Absalom, was one of the few black captains to sail on a whaler, and he sailed with an entirely black crew.
All right, you guys, this is the net that we're going to set up, and we're going to catch some of the animals and plants the whales eat off our coast.
On board the Sea Explorer, instructor John Sprofka gathers scientific sampling.
We're going to drag it along the surface of the water. Most of plankton likes to hang out towards the top of the water, because half of plankton is plants, and plants need sun. And the animal plankton eats the plant plankton, so they're going to hang out where the plant plankton are too. So we'll pull that in a few minutes, put it in the jar, and you guys can look at it under the scope.
These are the type of animals that the rest of those baleen whales eat. They'll scoop up a huge mouthful, and then they'll kind of strain all these little guys out. I want you to take a close look here and count how many animals we caught in that. Well, you said you wanted to know how many little fish you get caught in there, right? Yeah, that's quite a few, isn't there?
Are these all little fish? Are these all little animals?
Every little spot that's in there is an animal.
How can animals as tiny as plankton feed a whale?
They would get pretty hungry. They tend to eat the slightly bigger cousins of these guys. Let me show you what some of these guys can grow up to be. Take a sniff. Oh, doesn't that smell good? Ooh, boy. Now, what does it smell like? It just smells like fish. And if I reach in here, check this out. Yeah, there's a little shrimp. This is actually krill. Have you guys heard of krill? This is the #1 type of food that whales eat. Okay, because you get thousands of them growing, and they're very nutritious. No, I'm not going to eat it.
How many krill are there in a normal size scoop that a whale takes?
Biggest whale in the world is a blue whale. Okay, and they eat this stuff. All right, and their mouth is so big that they would take up a scoop of water about the size of this room. And if you can imagine this room packed with these krill, there'd be like 200,000 of them. Oh yeah, their mouths are huge. Remember, they're longer than this boat is. All this plankton, they don't really swim very well, so they just kind of drift along. So if you're a blue whale, it's really easy to catch them because they can't get away. You just come up and you...
But those guys are so little, they hard to fill you up.
Oh yeah, it would be hard to fill you up. And you got to remember, they look for someplace where a lot of these guys are swimming together. I'm going to take this tray and this dropper right here, and I'm going to suck some of these guys up. Ooh. Okay, so I've got, let's see how many drops I got here. You guys counting with me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, in 10 drops of water, here we go. When you guys watch this TV screen. all kind of stuck together. With these plankton, this is kind of like a traffic jam because they all got sucked into the net. So now they're all kind of stuck in there and they're kind of fighting with each other. Yeah, you see that one? And you see how it's green? Just like a tree? That's a little microscopic plant that lives out in the ocean.
Do normally more krill get caught in the baleen or the fish?
Some of those baleen whales will actually chase after fish. They do something called bubble netting. They'll see a school of fish, right? And the school's kind of spread out all over the place. They'll swim down below them. And then they'll swim in a circle around the outside of the fish. They'll blow bubbles out of their blowhole. And it makes a net, like a circle around the fish. And all the fish see the bubbles around them and they come into the middle. And then after the whales have let out a whole lot of bubbles, they go back down and then they all come shooting up through the middle and they just scoop up all the fish. They are incredibly smart.
In 1880, a Chicago newspaper wrote,
If you love your children, don't deny them the only opportunity they will ever have to see this monarch of the seas.
they were talking about a giant frozen whale on exhibit, stretched out over 2 railroad cars. Unless you went on a whaling expedition, this was the only way you could see the biggest animal on the earth. So customers plopped down with 25 cents in cities all across the country throughout that winter. Then spring came. Without refrigeration, the big frozen whale began to thaw. In fact, he got a little, how should I say it, ripe? He smelled really bad.
Field trip, right back after these messages. We now return to field trip.
Whales continue to fascinate us. In October of 1985, a humpback whale named Humphrey left the whale migration and swam under the Golden Gate Bridge right into the San Francisco Bay, heading right up towards Sacramento. He got stuck a few times on his journey in shallow water and started to turn a gray, sickly color. People helped him get back to the Pacific Ocean, and now he's been sighted 3 times since then, frolicking out in the ocean.
Identifying individual whales is part of the science of whale watching. Spotting and recording distinguishing characteristics on the flukes and dorsal fins helps us monitor their health and habits.
You guys can see from up here, Captain Steve has got a very good view. And he's usually the guy who spots the whales out here. When they're around, boy, he can see that glow very easily.
Yeah, turn the wheel.
It's kind of like driving one of those big rigs. You see the radio up there that Captain Steve's got there? When we saw those dolphins, Captain Steve called the other guys and said, look, we got some rhesus dolphin and some other types of dolphin here.
By collecting information and sharing it with us, they help ensure the whale's future.
Can you guys see this map over here? Do you guys see the little blinking spot there, the little crosshairs? That's exactly where we are on the map. This is called a GPS. It actually uses satellites out in space. And this is one of the ways that Captain Steve can tell the other whale watchers where we found the dolphins and the whales. Because these 2 numbers right over here tell us exactly where we are, within about 50 feet. We're going to use this map and we're going to plot exactly where we saw those dolphins.
Longitude and latitude are imaginary lines that circle the Earth. We use degrees and minutes to number specific spots along the circles.
Okay, now 2 readings along the bottom is going to be 117 degrees and 46.8 minutes. Here we go. 117 degrees is all the way along here, and then when you look at the minutes, 46.8, right there. Then on this side is going to be 33 degrees, 27.6 minutes. Right where that point, where the 2 lines meet, is where we saw those dolphins. Let's try and take a guess. How many common dolphin do we see?
17.
Yeah, we probably saw 17. Well, here's the rule of thumb, okay? If you see 17 dolphin up at the surface, there's probably 3 times that who are underwater, kind of spread out. We're going to estimate there was about 50 dolphin out there. Okay, that's not right. How about the rhesus dolphin? Did we see a lot of them?
Yeah.
They were the white colored guys with the big scars on them?
10 out of 10.
Let's say 9 or 10, okay. They're probably altogether spread out in that area. There are about 25 to 30 of them. And then what about the bottlenose?
Belleville route, any right whale's mouth could easily accommodate a card table and all the players sitting around it. Since we're here, stuck in the belly of this whale, anybody feel like a hand of gin rummy?
Oh, thank you, William.
If you'd like to find out more about whales, here are some books you might like to read.
Hunting Neptune's Giants by Catherine Gorley. The Six Bridges of Humphrey the Whale by Tony Knapp. And Eyewitness